Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we'll be taking a look at the second half of my vintage Panther paperback collection. Some fantastic stuff in here, sci-fi, horror, movie tie-ins, a real mixture of stuff which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so we're picking up exactly where we left off last time, and this is Panther number 696 on the spine there, and this is like a late 50s title, I believe, 1957. Actually quite a nice copy of that one. It's another one of their classic mid-50s sci-fi ones, which they did so well. And that's actually a nice copy of that one as well. They're not all going to be like that. We're still going to have our mix of war titles as well. So They Die With Their Boots Clean. This one's far more worn than that last one we just saw. Quite robust though. Now as I film this one today, in my quest to bring you a video once a week, I am having to do it on the Thursday, literally before it goes out on the Saturday. Usually I'm a couple of weeks or so ahead of time. But I've had a lot on at work, and I've not been particularly well actually. I came out with a killer cough, which really sort of stopped me filming any videos, and you can probably hear a little bit of it in my voice today. I'm a little bit croaky. So what that's meant is today in the UK is the Queen's 70th Jubilee. So the British Queen has been on the throne for 70 years today. So it's a national bank holiday, which means I've got, although it was my scheduled day off work anyway, but it's meant that I can film you this video. But there may also be, a few things going on. It's a beautiful day outside. So there's quite a bit going on in the street, and there's people playing music and what have you. Kids are out. So you may well hear, there's a bit of writing in there, you may well hear the odd young child in a garden and the dog barking and people doing their gardening. It is what it is, but I filmed the video, even with a few very distant background sounds, than not have a new video for you today. There we are, that's got that. I just had a little bit of an old pencil mark inside. And on the whole, I don't think these should be too bad, but they may, they may need, obviously they're going to need a brush off along the top edge, because that's not been done with these. And I will, of course, give all of these a polish, because they've all got nice glossy covers, so they'll polish up quite nicely. That one's got a slightly miscut, but can't do much about that. Probably not worth it on this particular book anyway. Follow My Leader, a war title. Bismarck episode, another one of those classic wartime memoirs. They did so many of these, Panther, and they're good. In a lot of cases, there's some real classics amongst these that just never really got popular. White Coolie, grim account of Australian nurses in Japanese hands. That was very much along the lines of Tenko, the BBC TV series Tenko, which had some Australian nurses, but mainly British nurses who were rounded up in Singapore and held by the Japanese in their camps. Zeppelin story. Always fascinated by the Zeppelins and dirigibles. House of Dolls, Lord Russell. Quite a few to get through today to do this second part of my Panther books. So we're not going to hang around. Edge of Battle, Barry Pitt. Prisoner at Large, looks like a World War II escape. One of my favourite subjects. Nice copy of that one. Periscope Patrol. Somewhat more worn than the last one we had a look at. But they're okay, most of these are alright at the moment. Medicine, My Passport. What a great cover that is. Very, very nice. I'm not sure if it's a PEF, but it looks like PEF. Actually, that's unread. Usually PEF would sign his books, so it may be him. It may be an artist called Mortalmans. It looks a little bit like their artwork. Clear the decks. They're really coming on, these, aren't they? So what date is this one? Is it? Yes, 1958 still. It's these late 50s ones. But when you think of the Pan books that were published in the late 1950s, then you realise that they had a bit of competition on the bookshelves, didn't they? This is quite famous one. It got filmed or got turned into a Hammer film, Camp on Blood Island. It's Japanese atrocities. It's very, very difficult to find in first edition. Look at the reprints. That was just in the first year, and it is a tough one to find for some reason in a first edition. So we'll just pause there because we're going to need to give these a brush. So if I stick them into, say, 4 smaller piles, like so, and we'll give these a brush with the my shoe brush here, and take off some of the dust that's accumulated, which we always find, don't we? Look at that one, second one in, really, really dark. That to me looks like it's been on a shelf. That's a bit better. Near an open coal fire, probably historically. And that is actually soot rather than dust that's accumulated on it. Soot from an open coal fire. That's my suspicion. Don't tend to see it so much on these later books, but books from the 1930s and 40s all the time. Because they were, open coal fires were much more popular back then, of course. As I said, we're not going to hang around today because we've got a lot to get through. Don't know exactly how many books, but my Panther collection goes right up to the late 1960s, early 1970s, and I brought all of those ones down with me as well. Some have never been shown on either of my channels before, so these are books that are new. So if you do follow my book videos on my other channel, there's a lot here you never would have seen before. Now, as you watch this one on the Saturday, if you're watching this sort of the day it goes out, yesterday, on the Friday, I actually put out a video of all my spare paperbacks. I've got about 300-400 spare paperbacks in my collection. I've needed to have a bit of a clear out, and those, it's like a visual catalogue. So if you're in the market for a few cheap, and I mean cheap, vintage paperbacks, head on over to my other channel. Go take a look at that books for sale video, and there may be something that you fancy to add to your own sort of collection. Murder Told Twice, a crime one here. I haven't got many crime because it's such a collectible genre, but and I've always sort of preferred SF rather than crime. But I do like some of it, but I only sort of enjoy the crime from writers that I'm sort of familiar with. I don't mind trying new ones, but I don't like getting let down at the same time. So it needs to come highly recommended for me to try a new crime author. Nice one there, an early Isaac Asimov, Currents of Space. Got quite a bit of Asimov across different sorts of publishers from this era, and a Western as well. These were obviously very popular around this time. So genre I don't have many of, but I think it's really underappreciated, and I do enjoy the Westerns that I've got, which is not many. This is probably the most valuable book we'll see today. In fact, I'm sure it is. This is the tie-in addition to The Revenge of Frankenstein, which was also a Hammer horror film. Jimmy Sangster. This one generally sells for upwards of 25, well, as high as £45 in actual fact, but you rarely see it go for less than 10 to 15, even in really poor shape. This one's got a little 75p in, so haha. I have actually had 2 copies of this one, so it may not be too rare, but it's definitely one to look out for, because it's quite a rarity. It's a good one, that. And All the Trumpets, Donald Smith. Possibly Panther's attempt to get another Camp on Blood Island, because that was proven to be so popular. This one's lost its suppleness. It's probably got wet at some point, which is a shame, and bent it a little bit out of shape. By Sea and by Still, that's another nice jacket. Shame my copy's a bit low grade, because that is a beauty. Beautiful painted artwork. They do not make them like this anymore. Well, unless you're Hard Case Crime, which do beautiful painted jackets. World at War, Edgar Holt. A fair few war-related titles. Another Isaac Asimov, End of Eternity. Schwarzenegger's Special Missions. Pork Chop Hill, I believe. This was another film starring Gregory Peck. Nice copy of this one. It almost looks unread again. There he is on the back. Oh, Gregory Peck. January 1959. This one was published. It's all right. Clementine Cherie. I think this is a cartoon book. Humorous sort of cartoons. 2nd edition, that. Confessions of a Special Agent, Captain Jack Evans, another wartime one. This is Panther 902. What's this, look? Panther Books Catalogue. Look at that. Send your name and address and you'll receive a copy of a colourful and profusely illustrated brochure giving full details of our forthcoming books. Cool, I bet that's good to look at. Never seen a Panther catalogue ever, so I bet it's pretty darn scarce. Right, let's give these a brush down. Well, we've not needed to repair any really, have we? Not so far anyway. There's a few which have got like slightly loose spines, but I don't think they actually need a lot of dust off that. The gluing treatment, as it were, you know. I just need what I'm doing here. And obviously, as I said, I'm going to give all of these a polish. Some of them would have been done before historically when I first got them. Some of them may have been done at some point on the channel, but they've never been sort of all pulled out and done at the same time. So there's going to be a few that are going to definitely benefit from a polish because they've been in my collection for years. Got lots of dust coming off there. As I said, these have never been brushed, or at least a lot of them have never been brushed, so they will appreciate a nice cleanup such as we're doing now. So I have got next week's cleaning books already, and it's going to be, I've got a box of pans out, or is it a box of penguin? I can't remember. I think I've got the next ones for each one, pan and penguin, ready to rock and roll. So that's what the next 2 weeks worth are going to be. Okay, back to the books then. So this is 905, Story of Wake Island. Pretty low grade copy this, but it's okay. It'll do until a better one comes along. You know me, I love collecting by publisher and seeing all the different sorts of books that they publish. Battle of Ardennes. That one did have a bit of a turned over page there, yes. Let's give these... look, it's because they've been miscut, look. So I'm going to leave that like that. I don't know if they're all like that. Yeah, they're all like it. That's why they've been turned over. How very dare it. It's got a £1.75 inside. So we will get that off though. There we are, that's looking okay. Rhode Island. A little bit of sort of burning on the back there. I reckon that's a cigarette burn, I reckon. Not sure if we're going to do anything on that. This is a nice one, isn't it? That's Spartacus. And this is the movie adaptation. Or maybe the movie tie-in. So this was the original book that the movie was based on. It's got Kirk Douglas, Lawrence Lewis. It's got the movie cast. And look, there they actually are on the back. That's great, isn't it? What a great cast that was. And what a film, in fact. Oh, look at that, look. Some Blair Williams, 13th of November, 1959, Foyles. And Foyles, of course, is a bookshop in London. There we are, 1959. So I guess that's where Blair Williams bought it. 63 years ago. Look at this one, Ivan Chapman. Prisoner of the Nazis, another real mint unread wartime one here. Yeah, and I'm sure we got this at a paperback show. And look at this, look, it's got a little London Transport ticket inside, an insertion, if you will. Route 97. Doesn't give the date, which is a shame, but threepence. Oh, I'm gonna leave that in there. I love stuff like that. Yes, an insertion. Someone's obviously used it as a little bookmark. Battle of Saint-Lô. Oh, that's got a Kirby. That's Josh Kirby. Did lots of jackets. Lovely stuff. The Day After Tomorrow. Another beautiful jacket. A bit tanned, that one. Look at that, that's a great artwork there. Great stuff. Robert Heinlein, early one. Puppet Masters. A bit more beaten up, this one. It's got a little mark which I've just rubbed off on the back there. Yeah, this one's been read a few times. We're into January 1960. Got a little 50p in the bottom of the top right corner here. So we shall get a shot of that. Like so. There we are. Yeah, quite warm, but hey, it's SF, that's good. The Mission. Look at this, almost an exact replica of the camp on Blood Island, which is obviously, as I said, doing very well. So Panther were desperate for something in a similar vein, and they came out with that. Oh, another early Asimov, Naked Sun. I think these are probably the first paperback editions of these Asimov books, to be honest. Were they printed in hardback? Yeah, Michael Joseph had done the hardback in 1958, and this was the first paperback. It went to Panther. Whereas later, of course, Michael Joseph ones would always go to Penguin. And this is a shorty, so this is one, if you compare it to a regular Panther. You'll notice it's been trimmed along the top and also down the spine there. So it's much, much thinner, and it's probably just been trimmed, possibly for export to the States. They may have rejected it, put a different jacket on. Their jacket's not particularly good. That may have been a replacement, but it can sometimes be quite difficult to find out what's going on. But it says it's the first Panther edition, April 1960. But I would surmise that there's two editions of this one. The normal sized one, and then the shorty, as I call them. Okay then, so we got Panther 1060 now, Shadow of Fu Manchu, Sax Romer. Now this one I've had for ages because I used to collect, or used to pick up all the Fu Manchu books. This one does actually need a tiny, and it is only a little bit of gluing. Most of these have been, to be honest, absolutely fine. Not needed to do a lot on these, but this one, because I've had it a long time, this has never ever been sort of repaired at all, and consequently the bottom of the spine is just starting to come away there, but a slither of Pritt stick in there is going to do the trick. There we are. Stop it getting any worse, which is all that this is about. It's just preventative, you know. There we are. That's all right. Very, very tanned, but there we are. Oh, it's an old 5p, but it's in pen, so I'm not going to be able to do anything about that. A. Van Vogt, Destination Universe. Nice. Oh, look at this. That is lovely, isn't it? Look at that. Another Asimov. Look, it looks beautiful. Unbroken spine, that one. What a nice copy. A little bit of tannin, but wowee. Look at that. First Panther, 1960, July 1960. With the hardback, Wendenfield and Nicholson, 1953. That is lovely. Now, really, really nice, that one. That's probably quite a collectible little paperback. That probably at least 10 to 15, I would surmise, in that condition. Very, very nice indeed. Another of my Second World War escapes, and once again, this one's actually got a little bit of spine coming away there down the bottom. But a really, really simple fix. So I'll just slide the bit of glue in there, tiny little slot there. There we go. Lovely. And I think we'll give this wedge a brush off. Really like that Spartacus. There has been some lovely books in here today. Some real nice classic authors and paperback editions, that is for certain. And that is why I collect these Panthers, because they don't turn up very often. Definitely not anymore. You'd need to really, really go sort of hunting for them now, because they have not survived like that. And I just don't think they're even collected as a publisher like that. Not like Penguin or Pan. You know, I just don't think they are. Why, I don't know, because we've clearly seen some absolute beauties today, haven't we, so far? And there is more to come. There we are. It's another Fu Manchu, Emperor Fu Manchu, one that I've had once again for a long time. Very nice cover. Even got the original ad in that one. October 1960. What a lovely edition that one is. Got some cool books coming up now. John Creasy, this is one of his Toff books, The Toff and the Deep Blue Sea. And we'll do quite a few jumps now because I don't have much past. I don't have anything like a comprehensive collection of 60s Panthers as I do the 50s ones. But we'll have a look and see what I've got anyway. There's definitely some interesting titles there, which I'm sure we're going to enjoy seeing. A Captain's Woman. Nice copy of that one. That's cool. The Great Snow. That one's going to need a little bit of glue on the bottom of the spine. It's funny, all the ones that have needed a little bit of attention have all needed it in exactly the same place. The bottom of the spine. Evidently, when they're read a few times, that tends to be where they're going. That's fair enough. Fair enough. There we go. Lovely. Didn't need a lot, that one, just a little bit. T. Lawrence of Arabia, author of the Seven Pillars of Wisdom. Lawrence of Arabia, The Mint by A.C. Ross. T. Lawrence as portrayed by Peter O'Toole. Ah, yes. Nice tight copy of that one. Got a tiny little bit of pencil up there on the, not on the inside, on the sort of the first page there, which is unusual. This is not one I recognise. The Mint by T. Lawrence. A daybook of the RAF depot between August and December 1922. Well, there you go. That must have been where he was, I guess, stationed. The Shame of a City. The scandal of London that is London after dark. A shameless city of corruption. Another one looking at the hidden underbelly of the nightlife of the big cities. Here's a little crime one. Murder by the Book. This one must have come my way in a little job lot. It's not the sort of thing I would go out of my way to collect, but because it's a Panther in the classic sort of style, numbered here, 1573. When does this date from now? It must be mid-60s. Well, 63, so still earlier than I thought. The Kama Sutra. Okay. It's a vintage Panther, okay, we'll leave it at that. This is nice. It's got a mattish cover rather than a glossy one. The Man Who Owned the World, Charles Eric Maine. Very, very nice copy of that. Look at that. That's a beauty. It's a lovely little sci-fi book. Tanned, so it's a bit brittle in a funny sort of way. Not very supple pages, but it's a minter. I'd say that was definitely unread. December 63. Yes, it's sort of a little bit of a smelly one, that, but it's a really, really nice copy of that SF book. Richer the Dust. Another wartime, very thin little novel this. November 64. This one's got a little 40 pence inside. Can't remember how this one came my way. Sometimes, you know, I can remember distinctly when I got a book, where it was and how much I paid. Other times, no idea, which makes me think it probably turned up in a little job lot or something like that. Francis Quarles Investigates on early Julian Simmons. That's nice. Yeah, that's very nice indeed, that one. July 65. Now, this next one is the first of a few of these, which are published under the Panther Crime Band label, which is, I don't know how many they did. I don't think there's that many, maybe about 30 that came out with this sort of library, of which I've only got 4. I've looked into trying to track them down. I cannot find a definitive list of what got published as the Panther Crime Band. I have a feeling it was just for maybe 6 to 12 months, and then it was given up because the slightly later Panthers, the 70s ones, have got their own, once again, distinctive look. But these are really nice, and the reason I've got these is because a lot of them are by Robert Van Gulik, who is an author I really do enjoy, and his main character was a chap called Judge D, who was a bit like a little Sherlock Holmes sort of character. There we are. Judge D is the long-bearded, bewhiskered master detective of ancient China. There we are. So anyway, let's give these a brush, and then we've got one last little batch to go through. When I was getting these out, I realised I actually need a slightly bigger area for my Panthers, so I might swap them and put them somewhere else where I've got a little bit more room. So a little rejig, since I've had them all out, is in order, I feel, because they've not quite got enough space to breathe where they were. So here's another one in the crime band, the Chinese Lake Murders. That crime band, 5 shillings, which wasn't cheap really, but they are quite large books. Another one, Chinese Nail Murders. And that's one of the reasons I've got these later Panthers, is because I wanted all the Robert Van Guliks, of which I have got the whole lot. They were published between Panther, I think there's an odd Flamingo, and the rest are Penguin. Penguin did 3 of them. Another Rex Stout, Too Many Cooks. What a great cover that, with the chef's hat on a head there, on a skull in a saucepan. Yes. Too Many Cooks indeed, eh? A diabolical menu for murder. Good stuff. Yet another one in the crime band, and I've just realised I do have one more in this one, but it's in my movie tie-in collection, and it's the Panther edition of the Ipcris File, and that's a shame because that's having a little resurgence of late. But sadly, it's not with me today, and I can't go and get it now. Sorry. Haha. So already the Panther Crime Band had disappeared, and we were back onto the much more traditional late 60s styling. This ties into the Judge D TV series, so they did adapt it. I can't remember if it's BBC or not, but I don't believe they even exist anymore. They were part of the sort of classic TV that got lost, a bit like some of the Doctor Who's. This is a great one by a real favourite author of mine, Kingsley Amis, The Green Man. Kingsley Amis plays a guy who writes this story, rather. It's a story about a chap who he owns a bed and breakfast, and the building that it's in was reputed to be haunted, and he would go around giving tours of the hotel, and but all the time he's trying to get his wife and her friend in bed for a threesome. So with the backdrop of a ghost story. So I'm just saying, it's a great book. Kingsley Amis, he's such a good fun writer. Another Judge D, later one now. Not sure if these are 60s still. 67, in fact, yes. There's quite a lot of writing and pricing inside, but only one, unfortunately, that I can rub out, which was the £1.25. Lovely. Another one here, Phantom of the Temple. It's alright. As I said, in the end I got all the Robert Van Gulicks. This was the last one. Fox Magic Murders. Tough one to find. In fact, they're all tough to find, the Judge D books nowadays. And the last one is a little bit of SF. Panther SF. I have got some more J.G. Ballards and things, but this really should have gone over into my sort of 70s Panthers, but for some reason it's ended up with my 60s ones. So this is 1974, yeah, so I ought to put this with my other sort of 70s Panther SF titles like the J.G. Ballards and what have you. But no worries, it's here now, so we'll give it the treatment. But that's the last of the books, so break these into 3 little piles here. Lovely. Right, so that's all them brushed. So I shall clear the decks and then we'll get the old polish out and start giving those covers a shine. Right then, got my Mr. Sheen and got a clean bit of cloth. Got the first book ready to rock and roll. Give it a good old squirt to begin with, and we shall zoom through these and give them all a bit of a polish. I think where it's going to show, like, it's sort of darkish along there. I'm hoping that that's the sort of stuff that will come up quite nicely once we sort of give these a bit of a going over. And that one's not too bad, although it does look like it's a dust shadow. And with those you can't actually do a lot. But some of this will be more than the eye can see. So I know that there's loads come off this already. I can see it at sort of at my level. But if you look at that, that was a brand new bit of cloth. Look how much dust and dirt has come off that. Literally, just straight like that. So you can imagine a more beaten up book, or one which is in lesser condition, it's going to be even worse. But it does mean when you pull the book off the shelf to give it a read, it's in as good a condition as you've been able to make it, basically. Yeah, certainly are nice, these Panthers. Really, really nice. Well, I like it. Let's put it that way. So, while we're doing this little bit of polishing, can you ensure me, while you're watching this, that you've definitely hit the subscribe button. We're over 800 now on the channel, which is brilliant news. Just a couple of hundred, and I can relax a bit, and YouTube will promote my videos out a little bit better than they do at the moment, because it's very much hit or miss. A lot of people who watch these have come from my other channel, of course. A few people have found me through search, but that will increase once we get to 1,000 subscribers, you see. So if we can do that, that'll be fantastic. I'm not after any more than that, and that will be just fine. So if you've not already, do hit that subscribe button. It will help the channel out quite a bit. This one's quite faded and it's got a lot of yellow, and as I'm cleaning it I can see it lightening up. It's got the classic cigarette staining. Look at that. Incredible. You see it so often on some books, you know. Let's move over a bit. On the cloth, that is, so we go to a different bit of cloth rather than the one that we were stuck on, which was getting a bit dirty. It's come up quite nice, this black covered one. It's often the way with a book with a black cover. Let's get them stacked up over there. Good that these books are all of an age where they had glossy covers, so they could be polished off. A couple of nice marks coming off there, that's good to see. And they're in the top corner as well. Much better than what it was. This is another one which is in that really nice condition. I seem to remember it was at one of the London paperback shows I went to, and there was a dealer who had some Panther, and he had some Foursquare and a few other war related titles, and they were all just £3 each, and they were mint unread. And I thought, yeah, and I bought about 20 off him, and a couple of the ones we've seen today are from that particular run, and I think he must have got them in a collection, and they really are outstanding condition, which is always nice, isn't it? Lovely. It's almost like it makes the mint ones minter, you know, because it just takes off the historical dirt and then they just come up gleaming, absolutely gleaming. And then you wish that all your books were in that condition. Very rippled copy of my Camp on Blood Island. It's a very, very easy book to get, but try finding a first edition. It's just impossible. Absolutely impossible to find. It seems anyway. Apologies for the motorcycle gang apparently going up and down my road. It's funny, when I'm in the studio, most sort of background noise does sort of get drowned out. You know, you don't really hear it. But stuff like bikes and cars, that's a different story, alas, and that can't be drowned out. However, my editing software is pretty good and it takes away a bit of the background noise, so it's not all bad news. More in the stack, and it's that lovely Isaac Asimov, Josh Kirby cover. Lovely. Carrying on with Riders at the Ford. Cool Panther Western. Quite a beaten up old one, and you do find that with Westerns when you come across them, particularly if it's a good author, like someone who's quite well known, like say Louis L'Amour, or J.T. Edson, or the Edge books, George Gilman. They tend to be read and read and read, so trying to find nice copies can be quite difficult. Simple as that. Yeah, very nice one, this. Very collectible indeed. Oh, now we got a plane going overhead. It's all happening here. Honestly, you'd think I was filming this in the middle of a motorway, wouldn't you? It's usually so quiet. God, it does seem very low, doesn't it? If the studio collapses, it must be right overhead. Well, this is that one that had that beautiful cover, but slightly lower grade, but very, very nice indeed. Really detailed jacket, that one. So again, it's got a lot of bit of nicotine staining, unfortunately, which you can see lightening up as you rub it along there. Yeah. But these books were from an era when people smoked. It's as simple as that. I used to smoke back in the day, you know. People did. and the books were stored accordingly. Right, so I'm going to just get a completely brand new corner of this cloth because it's so dirty from the books that we've done already, which means that even if you can't really see it, boy oh boy were they dirty, and they've really benefited from the cleaning that we're giving them, which is cool. That's why we're doing it. But I have had a thought about what am I going to do when I run out of books. Well, that's a long way off, don't get me wrong. I haven't even touched any hardbacks on the channel, and I've got lots of hardbacks that need wrapping, cleaning, and then put into plastic wrap. I want to do that with all my hardback books, of which I've got, reasonable collection, probably, I don't know. Well, I really don't know. Hardbacks and dust wrappers, first editions, don't know, probably a few hundred, I would think, maybe no more than that. Paperbacks is my love, but I have got some hardbacks, and I'd say only about a third of them have been wrapped up properly how I want them to be, looked after, with the dust wrappers in nice plastic wrap. So maybe I've got the plastic wrap. It's literally just a case of making a start, I suppose. So if you fancy seeing some of that as a bit of a break for the paperbacks for a little while, do leave a comment below and say, yeah, why don't you sort of mix it up a bit and do some of your hardback books. But I like to do, now that, like last week and this week, that's now all my Panther books done. That's another publisher done and dusted, and they can almost be sort of relegated now. I'm not going to be pulling these out again over here, only I'll pull specific books out for when I'm doing a feature on a particular author. So say I did an Asimov and vintage paperback video, I'd pull the Asimov books out from here, for example. So I do need access to all of my paperbacks, which I really, dip in and out of them when I do my author specific videos. Look at that, and that was a brand new bit of cloth, and look at the dirt we've got off it. It's just incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. So it just shows how dirty some of these books were. They really were mucky and really benefited from this clean. And I know, with the comments that I receive, I know that you guys are doing this with your books at home, and I hope you're having equally great success in bringing them back to life. Certainly, I look at contemporary books today, contemporary fiction, and I tell you what, I'm not seeing next to nothing that I fancy reading. I think it's really dire what's being published at the moment, particularly in genre fiction. It's just pathetic. There's some decent non-fiction coming out, and a few things that take my fancy, but fiction-wise, it's pathetic. But thankfully, we're blessed with hundreds and thousands of classic novels of a historical nature. A lot of them available in cool vintage paperback form, with brilliant covers of the period, usually very cheap. Most of these you could pick up for between £1 and £3 a pop. Obviously there's a few collectible ones in here, but not many. Most of these are pretty, I wouldn't imagine you'd have a real job tracking any of them down, with patience. So if you are in the market for a decent read, just take a look. There's some very great blogs, and in fact the video I'm filming next after this one is sort of paperback resources, online paperback resources for like vintage paperback collectors. So it's like YouTube channels, a bit like mine, that look at books, not always vintage, but books in general, lots of old books. Paperback fanzines, websites devoted to it, and other YouTube channels which focus on sort of older books, and Facebook groups as well that you can join. And that's like an all-encompassing one. I haven't done one for a couple of years, and the landscape has changed a little bit, and I think it's going to be great. And I've even had some contributors who've filmed specific little segments for the video. So I think you'll really enjoy it. So if you haven't already, do please go over to my main channel, just under Jules Burt, and take a look, because there's lots of good book related content on there, as well as a few other bits and pieces. I do a bit of Star Wars, I do a bit of gaming as the mood takes me. I like to cover, I would say it's a variety channel. I don't think there's any denying that. Lovely one that. But yeah, you do go and have a look and see what you think. See, it's funny, one minute you've got planes going overhead and it's all hell breaking loose, and then utter silence. It's weird, isn't it, you know? It's weird. But there you go. Such is the way of filming. I suppose ideally it would be nice to have a completely soundproof room, but that ain't going to be happening anytime soon. A bunker, maybe. But no, that won't be happening. This is very much a dedicated studio, but it's in my garden. So we are also open to the elements and the odd bird landing on the shed, on the studio roof here. Oh, we've almost finished stack number 2 of 3. So, as I film this, next month, about 4 weeks away, I'm off to Hey on Why with another YouTuber, a chap called Steve Andrews, who I used to work with years ago. And he's also on YouTube now as the Outlaw Bookseller. So do go and check Steve's channel out if you've not already. He's recently hit 1,000 subscribers himself, and is very, very knowledgeable chap. Written a few books himself on the world of science fiction. And you will enjoy his content, that is for certain. And Steve and I are heading to Hey on Why in a month's time, the home of books. So I've never been there. Steve's been there many, many years. You know, he's been going every year for about 30 years. He lives a lot closer than me. Hey on Why for me is miles away. It's a real road trip, but I am at the same time massively looking forward to it. So look out for that once again on the other channel. Okay, so we'll start off on the last wedge now. Look at the dirt we've got off these today. So we've got one clean corner left before this particular duster needs to hit the washing machine. But it seems, I mean, I've had these same dusters for years. I've got about 3 or 4 that go through a rotation, and the more they get used and then the more they get washed, they just seem to be getting better and better. I honestly don't know what it is, but they're just so good at their job. And years ago I used to have like a collectible shop. We sell comics, records, books, that sort of thing, TV, film, memorabilia, action figures, and it was in Plymouth, called Purple Haze, and we would clean all our stock in this way. Everything that came through, before even all the second-hand stuff, even before it hit the shelf, it would all be cleaned, and we'd bag it up in a lot of cases as well. We'd clean it and then bag it, and then we put it out for sale. And this is where I sort of started to learn to clean my own books and records and what have you. I haven't cleaned my records in a long, long time. Now, I don't have a lot of vinyl, but what I have got is soundtracks, because that's what I generally held on to. I've got, you know, a bit of music, but generally speaking, it's a soundtrack. So if you ever want to see me get my records out, of which I got quite a bit, Star Wars records alone is probably over 100 records, if you can believe it, from the days of vintage Star Wars. It's 12 inches, 7 inches, disco mixes, various versions of the albums. I mean, it's just endless. 100 is probably not an overestimate at all. Lots of foreign releases and that. It's that sort of thing. It's really interesting to look at. And although I've shown them on my other channel, I've never really gone through and cleaned it or anything, you know. And I have been going through my vintage Star Wars collection and giving them a really nice clean, and also upgrading them and reminiscing about where I got some of them and things like that. And that's been a lot of fun, I have to say. I do have a very soft spot for classic Star Wars toys and memorabilia, because I was there when it started getting released, and I've always loved it. These later ones shouldn't be too bad to clean up. They're sort of, the cloth is gliding over them, but it's still picking up lots of muck. Don't get me wrong. Look at that. There we are, a tiny little mark on that. Apart from that, it's in pretty nice condition. For my copy of the Kama Sutra. Lovely, here's that lovely Eric Main. Don't need much on this one. Beautiful copy of that one. Lovely. Cool stuff. Last little wedge. Yeah, I do like those Panther crime bands. If anyone watching, just in case, has got a list of all the books that came out as a crime band, I would genuinely be really interested to see that, because I don't know how many there was. I think it was such a short run little experiment, and I can't imagine there's more than 50, maybe less than that, you know. But if it was a finite amount, like maybe between 30 and 50, I might be tempted to try and track them down, because I do see the odd one here or there. I think, oh, shall I get it? Shall I get it? But without having a definitive list, I've never really gone for it. But anyway, as we close in on the last few books then today, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed seeing these, a lot of which have never been shown on the channel before. So a little exclusive here with some of these books. I've not shared these before on the YouTubes. Hope it's given you a few ideas for books that you might fancy reading. This one is particularly great. Real 70s cover, that one, but the story is really, it's a real ghost story. That's the way to look at it. And it's from a great writer. But yeah, if you have enjoyed it, do please give the video a like. Share it if you can. If you can put my videos out onto Unintentional ASMR Reddit groups, that would be the absolute perfect place for them. But beyond that, in any sort of book sites that you may frequent, do share the videos out. Spreads the word on your social media. See another little bit of mark there. I certainly enjoy doing these. Yeah, nothing I can do about that. And I hope you enjoy watching them, which is the main thing, isn't it? So yeah, do please give the video a like. Drop a comment below if you're enjoying the series while I put these together. And as I said, so far I'm managing to bring one out every Saturday. And that is sadly the maximum frequency I can manage, but as long as that's okay, you'll be in good hands. So, thanks very much for watching today, and I shall see you next Saturday with another cleaning video.